Hi, we'll call the meeting to order of the Planning Commission. There's no opening remarks, but I did just want to have 1 minute for the commission's awareness is that there's a downtown home tour on October 1st. And I just thought this was interesting because there's an accessory dwelling unit on the home tour. And I know we've had that conversation about accessory dwelling units and probably will again as the land development code heats up, but it's a good opportunity to go see what one of those are. There's not many in town. I don't know of another one. But anyway, so if anybody's interested, October 1st, I think it starts at noon, is the downtown home tour. So otherwise, we'll go to...
Rocky, how many homes in the tour?
I don't know a lot about it other than that. I think there's 3 or 4, something
that's
like
great.
that, maybe more. But yeah, the ADU seemed very interesting. So
Yeah.
I wanted to go check it out. Otherwise, looking at the agenda, item A is the approve the order of agenda. Anybody have any changes or take a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Is there a motion and second? Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to B, the minutes from our August 1st meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to public hearing items, item number 1. And Megan is presenting. We'll ask Megan to come to the podium and introduce it.
Good afternoon, Chair and Planning Commission. Item 1 is the Tyke Edition. This is a major subdivision, including a vacation of a portion of right-of-way. This property is located at 201 27th Street North and 2600 3rd Avenue North. So up in the aerial here, you can see this is 25th Street, where my cursor is, and then on the north side is 3rd Avenue North. This is a replat of all of lots 1 through 9 and parts of lots 10 through 14 of Teagan's second edition, and includes a vacation of a portion of 3rd Avenue North, as well as a dedication of a street and utility easement of 25th Street North. So up on your screen, you can see some aerial images. You can see 3rd Avenue on the top image, 3rd Avenue North on the left side and 27th Street. So you're looking south into the property. And then in the image below, you're looking southwest into the property. Just a couple more pictures here. Up on your screen, you just see the zoning here. And one thing to note that the underlying subdivision is Teagan's second subdivision, not Teagan's second edition, which is how it is noted in the agenda. So I just wanted in the packet just to note that if there's any confusion. Here you can just see a close-up of the property lines with an underlaid aerial image, and just to show that this right-of-way on this block is a little bit wider than what's happening on the east and the west sides. The plat is up on your screen. You'll see the hatched area along 3rd Avenue North is a vacation of a portion of 3rd Avenue North. The south approximate 10 feet is proposed to be vacated, and in that area, a public utility easement will be proposed as part of the plat. And then on the east side by 25th Street, you can see the hatch there is the proposed dedication of 25th Street North, which is a public and utility easement today. Staff has received 1 call of inquiry with no noted concern. Kevin Bartram, the applicant, is here. Should you have any questions, and staff finds that all criteria is met and is recommending approval.
Thanks, Megan. Any questions for Megan? Seeing none, does the applicant wish to add anything? Nope. Okay, any questions for the applicant, I guess? Seeing none, is there anyone else in the audience here that wishes to speak either in favor or against? Anybody have any comments on this? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to accept the findings and recommendation of staff.
There's a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion second, any discussion? Seeing none, please take the roll.
Holtz.
Aye.
Rosenberg.
Aye.
Morgan.
Aye.
Schmidt.
Aye.
Stoffren.
Aye.
Tassa.
Aye.
Gunkelman.
Aye.
Schneider.
Aye. Motion passes. Moving on to item number 2 with Megan.
Items 2A and 2B is EOLA Second Edition. This is coming back to your commission. You did see this previously in a little bit of a different form back in July. So before you today is a minor subdivision and plan unit development master plan amendment. It's a replat of lots 1 through 5, Block 1, EOLA addition, and then the PUD master plan amendment is also a little bit different than what you saw in July as well. So the location here, we are on 45th Street, and right going through the subject area is 24th Avenue. Just some images. So on the top image is the edge of, or the western portion of the plat on 24th Avenue looking west. And then south is that same, or I'm sorry, the image below is at that same location looking into the property towards the southwest. Shows you the current zoning. Back in July, earlier this year, 2 months ago, your commission reviewed a plat, a zoning change that changed some requirements within the PUD ordinance as well as an amended PUD master plan. Back in 2021 was the original approval of the EOLA development. There's been a couple of applications your commission has seen since then, including the phase 1 final plan and modification of a couple of things last year for building height and relating to the parapet. So there's been a number of times that your commission has seen it, and we're here again. Since that July 7th meeting, the applicant is no longer proposing right-of-way to dedicate right-of-way. And so due to that change, that's why your commission is seeing this application again. So the subdivision is no longer a major subdivision, it's a minor subdivision. And then there's some changes to the master plan from what you saw 2 months ago because of that change as well. So up on your screen, this just shows the area. This is consistent with what you saw before, but the area of where the applications are. So the master plan encompasses the whole area of the development, whereas the subdivision just includes the properties that are south of 24th Avenue South. So up on your screen is the amended PUD master plan. This is a little bit different than what your commission saw 2 months ago. There's no longer any right-of-way being dedicated on the east side of the plat, which had connected 24th Avenue South to 26th Avenue South. There is still circulation that will be through this area through a dedicated access easement that's existing that was there with the initial EOLA additional plat. So that will remain. That is how access will happen. Up in the northeast corner of your screen, you'll see a red dash. That is proposed to the other thing, I guess, besides the right-of-way dedication is you'll notice the parking ramp is no longer there. So you'll see a little bit different with more surface level parking. The red dash is an indication of a parking ramp that may come online at some point in the future. And so the applicant is hopeful that with the indication and with staff presenting today that this would, if you approve and if the city commission approves, would allow the potential for the ramp to be built without coming forward to the boards again. So it allows either, this PUD master plan would allow either that surface level parking there or the ramp to be constructed with approval. If there were any other changes to buildings, say on the south side or anywhere else, that would have to come back for your review again. As I mentioned, there's been one final plan that your commission has approved prior to any construction on the water park, which is this building here in the northeast corner. Final plan would need to be reviewed by your commission ahead of any permits. They also included in your packet there, based on this change, based on the conditions of the ramp and the surface level parking, there was some updated information in your packet relating to parking done by the applicant's consultants, as well as a narrative from the applicant in the packet. The City of Fargo traffic engineer has reviewed those updates and has concurred with the findings, and that is in your packet. Up on your screen is the updated plat. Staff has received one call of inquiry on the application with no noted concern, and staff finds that criteria are met and is recommending approval. They'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Megan. Any questions for Megan?
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
Megan, what's the purple line here?
Is it on the PUD master plan?
Yeah, do you know what that is? Is that the public? Is it the different lots? What is it?
Oh, the purple line?
Yeah.
The purple dash line, yes, thank you. Yep, that's an indication of the platted lot lines.
Okay. So if the water park, they could give it to the park board and all that land would go to public use then instead of just being owned privately?
So, and I'll let the applicant speak to how that ownership will work out, but here you can see on the plat, the purple dotted lines on the master plan should align with the proposed lots on the plat. And one thing to note, and thank you, Commissioner, for your question, when your commission in July reviewed the zoning change, it modified a few requirements. That is kind of holding steady and will meet up if you recommend approval of these items, and will go to the city commission. One of the things that was modified was the rear setback to be 5 feet. So just as a quick note, if it looks like the property lines are a little bit tight, that change in that setback was before your commission in July.
But is any of this planned on going to the city of Fargo? I mean, the pond or anything like that, or is most of it just
The
gonna,
pond will be, yep, private.
it's all
Nothing,
private, none of it at this point? I mean, it could go to park board, but it's not going to the city.
correct. That's my understanding, and I don't know if the applicants, so Blake Nybakken and Brian Reinhardt from Epic are here. If you have any questions, they could speak to how that public space in the center will function, or how the ownership will work out for that.
And one other question, Mr. Chairman,
Yeah,
and
what's
in regards to this parking ramp, what are we doing here? I'm confused. What are we approving and not approving now if we do this?
Yep, so what this master plan does, this updated master plan, is shows how the parking is met without the ramp, but there is potential for the ramp to be constructed, and should that be the case, it is shown on the master plan where if it does move forward, the ramp could be constructed. So what's before you is kind of both scenarios to allow the developers some more flexibility and to begin construction on the ramp if that does come to fruition.
Okay, so it's upwards, more parking than less, is what you're saying. So right now, we would
Right.
approve it as just a surface lot. And right now, it says we've got enough parking with the surface lot. But if they decide they want to do a ramp because it gets funded, then they'll have more parking, not less.
That's right.
And then, but they don't have to come back here to ask for it.
Right,
permission.
just, right, that's exactly it. Thank you, Commissioner, for the ramp. If there were changes to any other structures, like the addition, so the south side of the development probably looks different to you than what you saw previously. There was one or two more buildings. If those were to come back online in some format, those new buildings, your commission would have to re-review the master plan. All this does is the surface level change and allows if the ramp were to be constructed.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, Megan, I have a question as far as building placement in master plan. If there's some sort of, if we approve this master plan, we're saying that to the developer that buildings have to go here. And I guess where my question is really stemming from is that if you look at the 24th Avenue South that the city built several years ago, it looks like we made a pretty substantial investment on the angled parking there. And with the buildings that are under construction already, the mocked condos, it seems like the relationship of building and street is that there's the street with the angled parking, sidewalk, and then building. And then when you look to the north, there's the street, angled parking, sidewalk, parking lot, and then future building. I think when I look at that 24th Avenue, I see that the building should, that north building should have a relationship with the street. You can see that with the parking ramp outlined there as well, that also has that relationship with the street. So I guess approving this, are we also approving the building footprints that are shown here? And does the developer have any latitude of adjusting that when it comes?
Thank you, Commissioner, for that question. Really what the plan unit development master plan does is set the stage of the building. It really identifies the building envelope. So there's, what will happen if this amended PUD master plan is approved. There's three components to the PUD. There's the zoning ordinance, the master plan, and the final plan. The final plan has to be consistent to a certain extent, as outlined then in the land development code. And so really, it shouldn't deviate much at all, if any here. So placement of that building, if that were to move further south, that would probably need a re-review. It really would depend on the extent of change and whether it's consistent or inconsistent with the master plan based on the final plan criteria in the land development code.
Okay. And I'll probably ask the applicant that as well, just their desire to maybe move that building. So thank you, Megan.
Any other questions for Megan? If not, we'll ask thank you, Megan. We'll ask the applicant up. Just a reminder to introduce yourself for the record, please.
Thank you. My name is Blake Nybakken with Epic Companies. So in regards to the setback and the relation to that northwest building and 24th Avenue right away, we may have some latitude there. Our most recent rendition before we removed the ramp, we actually had that building interacting with the ramp via a skyway and an underground connection. And when we engineered that, that location further north on that lot was what made the most sense for those to kind of work together in that relationship. And so that was why we removed that building further from 24th. I mean, the original intent a couple years ago was to have more of that Broadway feel, and that's why we requested this, street design with the diagonal parking right up to the buildings where it is with the relationship with the mock property there. So, we could have some latitude, but, the way that we laid out the ramp prior to removing it, that's, this is the relationship to the ramp that made the most sense for that.
I guess,
Go ahead, yeah.
yeah. My question or maybe just thoughts on that is that the ramp's not there, but the street already is there. So I would at least maybe encourage you to look at moving that building south, just because that building and street relationship is already going to be there to the south, and then the investment on the street is already there. So just as a pedestrian and as an environment going onto that 24th Avenue, it's just going to feel better with that street, with the angled parking, to have that building closer. I feel like that it'd be probably a missed opportunity to not put that there. So if there's any way to make that work with your ramp, I would definitely encourage that. I guess there's no question, but
Sure.
Just some thoughts.
Thank you. Is there any other comments or questions? The applicant?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to talk about parking, Blake.
Okay.
I don't understand it. I don't think it's enough. Where's the office going? Where's the office space going to be? It says in the parking study, there's spots, a bunch of spots for offices. Where's that?
Yep, that would be on the main floor of those mixed-use buildings, including the two mock buildings that are under construction right now.
Okay. And now, without a ramp, how are you going to deal with this water park and parking?
We're going to provide the surface parking that was proposed on this master plan. So the lots to the north where the ramp is dashed in, and then the lots immediately south of there, we've replaced 3 buildings with surface parking on this map. So, the net result with working with our parking consultant, was what we're showing on this plat for proposed uses. We're able to accommodate with the surface parking on this site.
What's the capacity of the water park? What's the proposed capacity?
Oh, gosh. I want to say it's probably 200 and some patrons at a time. I don't know that number off the top of my head. I think when we looked at the feasibility study, it was something like 700 visitors a day potentially. But I think the capacity is going to be limited by some other code-related items, I believe, like toilet fixture counts and some things like that I'm not 100% certain of that one-time occupancy.
But this parking study is based on a shared easement agreement for everything south of 24th, or is that including, are we looking at the stuff north of 24th?
Yeah, we're looking at the entire development as a whole.
So you're going to put parking on the north side of 24th Avenue right away?
Absolutely, yeah.
when
If we don't have the ability, or if we don't move forward with the ramp, this surface parking takes place for that.
Okay. So when we approve this, all of that parking is gonna be in, even if the building doesn't, these future buildings don't get built.
Correct, yeah. Everything, I'd say, east of the midway point, those spaces are needed for the water park to come online.
Okay.
So the only separate one would probably be that southwest corner. If you isolate that, that southwest corner parking wouldn't be needed until that southwest building came online. But I believe when you look at the numbers, pretty much the rest of that on the east side would be needed, and that's what we would build with the water park facility.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for the applicant?
Yeah, I'm always concerned about too much paved surfaces. I think everyone is. And then if the case of the ramp were completed, would that diminish at all the need for this parking that exists on the current drawing?
Yeah, we could basically revert back to our previous master plan, in which we had, 3 additional buildings on the south half of the property and a parking ramp. So, I believe the footprint of the surface parking is more than what the footprint of the buildings would be if we were able to achieve that.
Yeah, it just seems to me that, ideally that we would see a lot of green space and more of that pedestrian-friendly atmosphere that Tommy was referring to. It seems to me like there's a lot of spaciousness around the edges, and if that could somehow be amended, that would be great. And then the street that we're talking about there on the east side, I think that has changed, hasn't it, a few times in terms of its width?
Correct. So our most recent design, or our previous design, excuse me, was going to be right away. So it was a little different street section. It had some parking on both the Park District side of the property, so it extended a little bit further east. And we were looking at doing a major plat at that time. And then some circumstances changed, and we've reverted back to a private drive here to satisfy the circulation needs and the parking requirements.
I understand that. I liked the vision previously where there was a wider space there, and you had spoken, I believe, at one time about the possibility of using that as, kind of a gathering spot or a market spot or something that would contain festivities if the parking ramp were built and there was adequate parking.
Yeah, and I still think the way this is laid out, when we talked to engineering and Mr. Gordon, I still think that we could shut that down on the east end because of the circulation that we have on the west end. So I still think that this would allow the ability for that, but yeah, it's certainly a different configuration than what we had originally intended, so.
Yeah, that seemed to me a charming concept, so the width is important.
Yeah.
Any other questions for the applicant? Anything else you'd like to add while you're up?
No, I don't think so. Thank you.
Okay, seeing none, is there anyone else in the audience that wish to address this item, either for or against? Anyone else wish to say anything? Okay, we'll close the public hearing. Commissioners, what are your wishes? I guess I did have maybe one question for Megan or maybe for Nathan, because I told him I'd ask him a question now that he's here. But this seems similar to the 51st Street issue that we had, this type of road, where we had a grand idea going into it that you'd sort of interplay with the diagonal parking on the road, and then it ends up not coming to fruition where you're using that road, and so you end up with a lot of extra road to maintain and pavement out there. Do you see that as a similar issue? Because I know on 51st Street, we were pretty, frustrated that the plans didn't come through and they had all this sort of investment into the road like this, as opposed to just for traffic. Now it's diagonal parking. Because I kind of agree with Commissioner Schmidt that it's silly to have these double fronted lots next to diagonal parking. It doesn't you wouldn't design it that way.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you have a question for planning staff or for Nathan Borboom, but there are some similarities. I think there's some differences as well. This is a planned unit development, and urban planes, we were talking about kind of a developed area. In this case, it is right. It is a different type of roadway like 51st. We don't have a lot of them in the city. With this one, I know that there are, and Mr. Nybakken could speak to it a little bit more. There are agreements in place with how, for example, snow removal would be handled. And so the roadway and the maintenance is a bit different than 51st Avenue as well.
Okay, that's good to know. Yeah, I mean, that answered my question, unless Nathan wanted to add something. Yeah, any other comments?
Yeah, and Megan, I think that with that 51st, that was put in and then we were anticipating development, but I guess with this one, we already have, the development is right in front of us, and this is what it would be, so I guess the more I think about it, the more I really do think that that north building needs to be closer to the street, because that's what all the other buildings are doing there. Do we have, as a commission, have the latitude to make any adjustments or make a motion for moving a building like that? Is that even anything that we can do as a commission?
That may be a question for the applicant and what their what they would like to do. This is the application that's before you today. I don't know, the applicant could probably talk about his timeline a little bit more. My understanding is really their next phase is going to be the water park and the hotel. Outside of the ramp, anything north is down the road at some point. And as you heard the applicant say, that if the ramp does come online, that basically would probably mean that the buildings at the south will come online, and that would need to be before you as well. So it may be, I'm not sure if the applicant wants to speak to that, the potential for moving it. Your commission could probably continue this item and have more discussion on that, but I think it's probably a question that maybe the applicant wants to answer too, the potential for it.
I mean, we closed public hearing. We did kind of ask and answered that question. He had his opportunity to answer it, unless there's a different question to ask the applicant. I mean, we could invite him back up, but you asked him that same question and he answered it
We're
like
not
it
the
did.
designers.
Well, we can say no. I mean, Tommy, did you have a different question you wanted to ask him or dig into it more? Because you
No,
asked
not-
the same
not
question of the applicant already. So.
Right. I just was thinking about it more in that if the scenario where the parking ramp doesn't come online, then, the mock buildings are already there, so there's that relationship. The water park's next, that's there, and then, parking ramp doesn't come online, that future hotel does come online, it would just feel like a missed opportunity to have that 24th Avenue section with that building set so far back, unlike the rest of the buildings on that section, so. I was just thinking about it a little bit more. I'm not sure exactly what action I'm looking for, but I guess maybe other thoughts from, you shared some thoughts. Curious to see if anyone else has similar thoughts.
Is there comments? Otherwise, we can, our options, we approve or deny or continue, right? Anyone else have comments or a motion?
I would make the motion to accept the findings of staff as presented in our packet.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on that? Seeing no discussion, we'll take the roll.
Dunkelman,
Aye.
Holtz,
Aye.
Stoffren,
Aye.
Morgan,
Aye.
Schmidt,
Aye.
Rosenberg,
Aye.
Tassa,
Aye.
Schneider.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Megan. Invite Donald up for item number 3. And we do have, I believe we have the applicant calling in.
Yes, sir.
So Donald, maybe before you start, could we just do a check to see if the applicant can hear us and if he could respond? Just so we know that's working.
This is the applicant, Rick Johnson. I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. We'll have Donald introduce us and then I'll call on you when we get to there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Donald Kress from the Department of Planning and Development. Our next item is Trollwood Land 3 edition. It really is 3 because the previous plat is Trollwood Land 2. So this is located up here in North Fargo, where we don't really get very many very much action here. On North Broadway and 32nd Avenue North, right here, this corner. This is the Trollwood Village Senior Apartments here, and the water reclamation facility, the sewage plant up here. And what we're looking at today here is a subdivision, or more specifically, a lot combination. It's a replat of parts or all of 3 lots of an underlying subdivision to combine them into a single lot. This is just some photographs of the location here, 32nd Avenue and Broadway with the Trollwood Village behind it. And then this is walking down 32nd Avenue, looking at it from the point over here. And there, note the residences across the street here, some single-family residences there. This property is zoned LC, limited commercial, and no zone change is proposed. There is, as you see in the photos here, some site preparation going on. There is a proposed retail store here, and when we get to the applicant, he can tell us more about that. And that has been going through our building permit process, which is a staff process. Your commission does not see those. The plat looks like this. Here we see the underlying lots 1, 2, and 3 and part of lot 4 being combined into a single lot. And the applicant, Rick Johnson of United Development Group, as well as the local surveyor, Dustin Vosberg of Interstate Engineering, are with us this afternoon, and they wish to address the commission. And our staff's recommendation is stated in the staff report and shown on the screen. That concludes staff's presentation. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, Donald. Any questions for Donald? Seeing none, we'll ask the applicant. Rick, if you could introduce yourself and then make any comments you have.
Yeah, this is Rick Johnson. I'm the owner and developer. Our company's out of Green Bay, Wisconsin, and we just want to combine those lots for simplicity purposes. When we're and we've talked to the assessor, and he's going along with it. We would therefore get one tax bill, and it'd just be easier for our retail customer to have one lot.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant?
I have a question. I'd like to know what kind of a commercial building or a business that you're proposing in terms of its impact on visibility on that corner. It's the intersection there of 2 important roads, and obviously there are buildings to the east there. Do you have any kind of a scheme as to what it is that you're proposing for the commercial property?
Go ahead. Yeah, we are building a Dollar Tree store there, which is an acceptable use for that area. So it's a Dollar Tree retail store, single story, and we've gone through the process with staff and so forth to get our plans and so forth approved. And as we had said, what we're looking to do from simplicity standpoints is to combine all the lots that we own into one parcel for singular use of a tax bill.
So, Commissioner, if I just may interject. So, in the site plan review process, which is separate from what we're doing here today, we do work with the applicant to, have appropriate site distances and appropriately spaced entrances, and the landscaping standards, as you're so familiar with. It's a new building, so you're starting from scratch here. For those of you who've lived on the north side a long time, you might remember the service station that was there and went away, I think, in the 1990s. So it's effectively greenfield development again. We're starting with a new lot. And as the applicant stated there, Mr. Garcia on our staff has been handling the building permit for this in the site plan, along with our other departments we always work with on that.
Thank you, Donald. Any other questions? Seeing none, is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to make comments? Either for or against? Anybody else? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Commissioners, what are your wishes?
I move to approve with a motion in the staff report.
Thanks. There's a motion. Is there a second?
A second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Seeing none, please take the roll.
Morgan.
Aye.
Schmidt.
Aye.
Gunkelman.
Aye.
Stoffren.
Aye.
Rosenberg.
Aye.
Foltz,
Aye.
Tasa,
Aye.
Schneider.
Aye. Motion passes. Moving on to item number 4, Donald?
Commissioners, this one is, you might say, rather close to home here. This is the North Dakota R1 Urban Renewal Edition. It's a vacation of right-of-way. The interesting part is that we're almost standing in this plat here. So this is a vacation of portions of 3rd Street North and 3rd Avenue North, which before the City Hall was here were public streets. And it is time to vacate that right-of-way. You all know where this is. This is 3rd Street here, and then this is 3rd Avenue on the north side here, and City Center Lofts, which has been constructed also since the City Hall, a condominium development to the north of us. The surrounding zoning here is DMU, downtown mixed use, but we're walking on a vacation of right-of-way. So here's the vacation plat. North is to your left on this plat, and it just shows the area to be vacated. You will see no difference. So when we're, oh, sorry, I went back. So this access here, library here, lift station, this access, the parking lot, this will still be the same, except it's not public right-of-way anymore. It's city-owned property. The city owns this entire block. And then with the right-of-way here, there's the city center lofts and then this parking lot over here, which is a third owner. And subsequent to plat recordation, we have agreements with these owners to acquire the entire width of this right-of-way for the city. That's correct, Mr. Borman? Yes. And there will be a related easement, a separate document provided to allow the city center lofts to go out and maintain their building, wash their windows, and maintain their building on the outside. We have, as we've stated before, we have no provision for vacation of right-of-way in the Land Development Code. That is done through North Dakota Century Code, so the findings you see in your staff report are just the North Dakota Century Code, Chapter 39 findings. And again, I know you're looking at me there, Commissioner Holtz. We do went through with the utility providers to clarify that. I think we're working with 1 or 2 more, but that will be, those will just become ours. Most of the utilities in here serve only the city property. So it does not appear so far that there's the need to retain any further easements. If so, we just add that before this goes to the city commission. And so the applicants are right here, I guess, from the engineering department. I don't know if Mr. Hall or Mr. DeWald are here, the adjacent property owners. But staff's recommendation is shown on the screen and stated in your staff report. That concludes staff's presentation. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thanks, Donald. From the plat, it looks like you're just dotting your i's and crossing your t's. Is that?
Perhaps, sir. It's perhaps so, sir. Yes.
Okay. Any questions for Donald? I know. It should not have been built. Yeah. Seeing none, is there anybody in the audience, or does the applicant wish to add anything?
Okay.
Okay. Anyone in the audience wish to speak either in favor or against this item? Seeing nobody in the audience, we'll close the public hearing. Commissioners, what are your wishes?
Move to approve as presented?
Second.
Motion and second, any discussion? Seeing none, please read the roll.
Schmidt,
Aye.
Morgan,
Aye.
Tasa,
Aye.
Gunkelman,
Aye.
Foltz,
Aye.
Stoffren,
Aye.
Rosenberg,
Aye.
Schneider.
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, Donald. Item number 5, if you've been saving your tough questions, this is Elena's first presentation to us. So it's
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
welcome, thanks for being here.
I am Elena Espeseth, and I will be presenting Larkin's second edition. This is a minor subdivision. Please see the laydown item that has been placed in front of you. The subject property is located at 3600 39th Street South. For reference, this is I-29, 32nd Avenue South. This is the Love's Gas Station and Fleet Farm. The subject property is located, my bad. The top image was taken from 39th Street South, looking south at the property. The bottom image was taken from 39th Street South from the southern property line looking north. The top image was taken from 39th Street South, looking east across the stormwater detention basin along the northernmost property line. The building in the background are on the adjacent property. The bottom image is of the existing building on the subject property and the adjacent property. This is showing the breezeway that is currently connecting the two buildings that crosses the property line. This is to be demolished upon sale of the subject property, Lot 2. The current zoning is LI, limited industrial, no zone changes proposed. There is no conditional overlays or special permits on this property. The entitlement request is to replat Lot 2, Block 1 of the Larkin addition into a 3-lot minor subdivision. This is the location of Lot 1, Lot 2, and Lot 3. There is an existing shared access easement that follows the flag portion of Lot 2, in which all lots will take access from. The current structure will be within the confinement of Lot 2. The warehouse and manufacturing operation known as Comfort King has ceased operation, and the applicant intends to sell Lot 2. Where's my mouse? Right there. And Lot 3. To date, staff has received one inquiry about the application with no noted concern. Brian Pattengale from Houston Engineering is here on behalf of the applicant today to answer any questions that you may have. Staff's recommendation is for approval as stated in the staff report and shown on the screen. Thank you, commissioners, and that concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you. Any questions for Elena? Any questions? Yeah. Seeing none, is applicant wish to add anything?
I'll figure I'll come up and talk a little bit. Good afternoon, commissioners. Yeah, the plat is essentially.
Just introduce yourself.
Oh, I'm sorry, I
Brian.
apologize. Brian Pattengale with Houston Engineering. As I was saying, the owner is sort of wrapping up their manufacturing operations at this facility. So their intent is to sort of sell off their existing assets, which is that sort of existing warehouse there. They'll retain ownership of sort of the north lot for potential future development, and their intent is to, like I said, sell off those two lots to some parties.
Great, thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Seeing none, anyone else in the audience wish to add anything for or against? Thank you, Mr. Pattengale. Anybody else in the audience? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Commissioners, what are your wishes?
I would make the motion to accept the findings of staff as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, please read the roll.
Tassa.
Aye.
Dunkelman.
Aye.
Stoffren.
Aye.
Foltz.
Aye.
Rosenberg.
Aye.
Morgan.
Aye.
Schmidt.
Aye.
Schneider.
Aye, the motion passes. I think that's all the business for us. Any other comments? Seeing none, we'll adjourn the meeting.